All right, so to try to keep this lively, this is like Little League today, where if you ask a question or you participate, you get a little prize. And I'm not going to take you through like a training deep dive today. Can everybody hear me okay? I haven't presented in like a year, so it might be a little rusty. So we're not going to go through training today. We're going to talk about some use cases and what we're seeing in the market and how to apply what we do to maybe what some of your customers' challenges may be. So little different approach. We can certainly do more deep dive training if you'd like to have it down the road. But thought today it'd be more helpful for you guys to hear what we're seeing and maybe opportunities to make some money, right? The tagline is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? So what COVID, if it didn't teach us anything else, a lot of companies thought they had good business continuity plans. They thought, oh yes, our employees work from home when they're sick. We can support that. And on March 17th of last year, all those plans went out the window for a lot of customers. And by and large, people figured it out pretty quickly. I mean, customers made the pivot pretty quick. They were able to get people working from home, put in some collaboration tools. But what we found is the customers found that to be much more expensive than they had expected it to be. So while they were able to mobilize the workforce pretty quick, pretty amazing, people are resilient, it costed them a lot more than they expected it to cost, which put a lot of other capital projects on hold. We'll get to that here in a minute. So to your point, if you haven't worked with me before, I see a few of you that I've worked with. Data centers, cloud, and co-location. So we have 42, just announced 43 data centers now. We just acquired a data center in El Segundo, California, so in the greater LA area. So coast-to-coast presence in 20 markets. We have local sellers in all the markets. I manage the TCG relationship by and large from South Florida. The relationship kind of takes me where, where the accounts go, but I am your point of contact. I live down here, endless summer. We love it, right? From a cloud perspective, we are not a hyperscaler. We're not AWS. We're not Azure, but we have connectivity into the hyperscalers. So we can facilitate those kind of conversations with your customers. We're looking for customers who are, looking for a private cloud or a multi-tenant cloud, more of a high-touch experience, more of a customized experience. And we can layer on a lot of managed services that make that small cloud deal much more lucrative for you guys in the field and more beneficial and more valuable for your customers. We're going to roll with it. Oh, security as a service. So we do offer SOC as a service. If you have customers that are looking for more security right now, another big hot button that we're seeing, by and large, when you mobilize the workforce and you send them home, they no longer have all of those protections that they have from the corporate office. So that's also become one of the leading services or reasons that people engage us. And then disaster recovery as a service. So another interesting point here. It's so weird having somebody like taking their picture right in front of me here. So a lot of customers thought, hey, we know how to do disaster recovery. Like we live in South Florida, right? Hurricanes, we know what to do here. Well, pandemics are not things that most companies had, planned for, right? Plus, thus the example of mobilizing the workforce in a very short period of time. So those disaster recovery conversations now that we're having have taken a new lens. We're accounting for not just physical office space, not just where the employees are in the hurricanes, but how do we mobilize this workforce in a quick way? This is a picture of Thomas Edison's Edison Works in 1914. So it burned to the ground, if you don't know what the story or familiar with the story. The campus had about 13 buildings on it. One building caught fire and just incinerated the whole campus within a number of hours. And as the New York Post was interviewing him, they said, what are you going to do now? And he said, well, I'm 67 years old. All of this is burning down. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up, we're going to clean up, and we're going to figure out how to move forward. And they built it up. They built it again. He built it again. And the rest is history, right? So that's kind of where we saw people in really the end of Q2, beginning of Q3. We saw some purse strings loosen up. A lot of customers, a lot of companies realized this is not something that's going to go away overnight. We are going to have to figure out how to make money, how to pivot and support work from home, support our business growth, support the business to go after new markets in the interim until we're able to all get back together safely again, right? So what are people doing now? All right, prize time. How many Teams meetings, as a percentage, how many more Teams meetings were created from 2020 to 2021 as a percentage? How many new, as a percentage, new Teams meetings? Everybody uses Microsoft Teams, right? Okay. No way. It's exactly it. So from March 5th of this year, 2020, March 5th of 2020, through December 31st of 2021, 500% more Teams meetings. So do you know what that means in terms of Microsoft's revenue? and Office 365 specific. Most of your customers probably use some version of Office 365. Revenue is up 31% across the Microsoft 365 stack. So what does this mean? So some customers, a lot of your customers may still have some on-premise Exchange, on-premise Microsoft products. Most of them have, or most are in a process of moving to the cloud if they're not already there. These are important questions that you need to ask your customer because this is just money on the nightstand. This is money that maybe somebody else isn't talking to them about. Microsoft's got a pretty robust suite of collaboration tools. If you haven't used them yet, looks like most of you have used Teams, but it's caused a shift. And even customers who were Office 365 customers have increased their spend with Microsoft and upped their license so that they can get those collaboration features that we've all needed. So collaboration is like off the bat the number one thing that we're hearing customers say, we got to do better at this year. And going back to the conversation around mobilizing that workforce, right? So yes, most customers were able to mobilize that workforce in a short period of time, but at a tremendous cost. So not decentralized communication tools, Zoom, we're talking about multiple WebEx, multiple web conferencing platforms. So you're able to do it, but now it's the time to optimize. So we really see 2021 as being the time to optimize all of that and then help customers kind of synthesize that spend. And that gives you guys an opportunity to be a thought leader and help them, bring us in, help them figure out what their communication and collaboration strategy is going forward. So money on the nightstand. So the number two thing we've seen is an acceleration of customers moving their assets from on-premise to co-location or to cloud. So a good example of this is if you've driven around the business parks around here, how many office space for rent signs have you seen? A lot, right? Too many. Well, is it? It's a tremendous opportunity. So we've developed a specific collateral. We call it an artifact or a one-pager that you all have access to through TCG. That specifies or talks about the specifics around how property managers and agents can win partnering with TierPoint. This is collateral that's specifically geared toward asking property managers and customers a few questions about what their strategy is. Because as customers give up large chunks of real estate, many of them are not already in a co-location facility. Many of them are using that telecom closet in their office park or using part of their suite to house a couple of racks of gear. So a couple things happen when you start asking those questions, or a couple things that we've seen, rather. We recently had a win down here with a company that decided they only needed half of the space that they had, right? They were leasing 2 floors in an office park over in Plantation. And they said, hey, we're just going to cut this down because even when we return to normal, only about 30% of our workers are going to be here at any given time. So it's going to be roaming cubes. We're just going to sanitize, and we're going to save $340,000 a year. Yeah, that's what office space is in South Florida. You guys live down here. You pay property taxes. It's crazy, right? So that's what office space costs, right? So they were already in the process of kind of consolidating what they had, and they said this is a good opportunity to get out of the infrastructure business entirely and move all this to cloud. So they were in the middle of a kind of a capital expenditure refresh cycle, and because they didn't want to spend the money, they wanted to hang on to their money. They were still unsure of what the climate's going to be. Let's save all of our money. Let's move it to an operational expense, and they moved to TierPoint. And we've basically forklifted all of their infrastructure into the cloud. The only thing they have on site is a firewall, and that's will be ready for whenever their employees move back. So, real live example there. Move from service provider to cloud. So, question time again. Anybody have an idea of what the percentage increase in infrastructure and platform as a service was from March 5th to December 31st, 2020, over the 4 quarters in 2019. So this is according to a Gartner survey, infrastructure as a service. This is servers and storage in the cloud. Anybody have an idea of what the percentage increase was? 300%. We all wish. I would not be here today. I'd be on that boat if it was 300%. But, so it was 31% year over year, which is a lot, right? Do you want to pass this back here? I don't want to get too close. So that's a lot. We saw about 18% from 2018 to 2019, so 31% for 3 quarters in 2020 is pretty big. They expect about 34% this year. So what does that mean? It means that the customers we were just talking about that are moving out of their office space are looking for maybe cloud services instead of co-location, right? Presents a tremendous opportunity. It's about a $43 billion a year business. And third example, so moving the spend from existing co-location into a cloud. So for all of the reasons that we just highlighted, we had a recent win of about 78K in the Northeast from a company that buys up hotel assets. So if you knew anything about the hotel industry, the Marriotts and the big chains, many of them are owned by corporate, many of them are owned by smaller companies that are franchisees, right? Because of the downturn, there are a few large companies that go out and buy these franchisee assets. And as these assets have become stressed in Q2, Q3, one of these large entities went in and bought up a whole bunch of these kind of private franchisees and made a bigger conglomerate than they already were. So what that meant is they had a tremendous opportunity to consolidate their assets, right? All of these franchisees had individual IT assets. So they used this as an opportunity to create a huge operational expense, one big operational expense, transition it all to cloud. So all of the individual little data centers that these companies had became part of a bigger cloud managed by the overall parent company. Does that make sense? So what that just tells us is the transition to operational expense is not anything that's going away anytime soon. Where companies are seeing opportunity, they want to use their capital to go reinvest it in M&A. They don't want to go buy data center. They don't want to go spend it on storage and servers. They want to use it to go buy more of what is their core business. And that leaves them free to manage that core business and not manage IT, right? Any questions about that? What are you guys seeing out there? Anybody want to chime in? Like, are you hearing, is any of this resonating? Are you hearing your customers talking about closing down office space? What are we going to do with our server closet? Yeah, maybe? Or are you just hungry? I know it's, yeah. A lot of people have already done that. Yep. A lot of people have already done that. And there'll be more of it, right? We're going to see, I think we'll see more of it. Yeah. 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 And I don't think that's going away. And I think people genuinely really enjoy working from home for the most part. There aren't very many people who say, I really can't wait to go sit in traffic on 95 and commute to downtown Miami every day. That's just not a thing, right? Especially down here in South Florida. All right, so that's really all I prepared today. I don't want to give you guys a deep dive on training. If I just wanted to hopefully give you a few talking points and let you know what we're seeing out here, give you a couple of live examples of conversations that you guys can have, conversations that maybe your customers aren't having with, nobody's bringing it to their attention, and hopefully we can find an opportunity here or there. So I know you guys are all wondering, how do I get paid, right? No, you just do this for free. Yeah, so do I. Again, my yacht. No, not my yacht. So we do not have an advertised booth with TCG, but if we need to get creative, then come to me. We'll do our best to accommodate in any way that we can. In the infrastructure business, it is capital heavy, so it's tough to follow up a 7x spiff, but that's the business that we're in. But our deals are large. We closed a deal last summer, a 56K deal with the company that was in M&A mode, right? They are going to expand, and they didn't want to spend their money on capital. They were in a co-location facility for like 10 years, and they're like, we're tired of paying for colo, and we need to refresh our hardware, and we would rather open up 2,000 new stores than spend our money there. So there are big deals out there. Yeah. So, any questions? You guys good? Eating? All right. I guess I'll just take my bag of goodies home. All right, come see me if you have anything you want to talk about. Down here? We do not have a data center down here. Our nearest one is in Jacksonville, but I do have a partnership. There's a data center in the Golden Glades area that doesn't do any retail. They only do wholesale, and I do have that as an option. It's got great connectivity. There's hyperscaler connectivity goes through there. So if you have somebody that's maybe looking at the NAP and they're looking for an alternative, I've got a really good play there.
Is that Excel facility?
No. It's actually the Edge Connects facility. So it's a wholesale data center that we have exclusive rights to sell the retail through them. So they just do hyperscalers, just big pipe, and they've got dark fiber over to the NAP. So if you needed something, we might have a compelling story there, and we can do private cloud in those data centers too. So, yeah. All right, guys.
In your Jacksonville facility in Florida here, obviously, what tier one providers do you have servicing your center?
Oh, that's a great question. I can't name them off the top of my head, but it's all the usual suspects. So if that was anybody else's question as well, all of our data centers are carrier neutral, and they all have between like 6 and 15 carriers, just depending on who's lit in that area. Jacksonville, off the top of my head, it's AT&T, Cogent, Lumen, CenturyLink, Verizon. I can get you that list if you'd like. Yeah, and I'll drop a card by. All right, guys, thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Thanks for letting me out of the house today.